Right, so this deep dive, well, it's about the Einganeers line,
Hmm.
and specifically the blog post called The Bird Feeder.
Okay.
And I gotta admit, starting a deep dive with a frozen bird,
Yeah.
that's that's a new one for me. But hey, I
Yeah.
mean, that's what makes it so interesting, right? You never know what to expect.
Yeah, you never know. And it's a brilliant choice by the author.
Yeah.
Really, this seemingly simple story.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for some pretty weighty questions about an engineer's role in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And this engineer, we know that he's spent a lot of time working in big oil.
Right.
Um, and he seems to be kind of wrestling with a few things, his career choices,
Hmm.
environmental concerns, maybe even some guilt. But what really grabbed my attention was his changing view of the EPA,
Yeah.
going from seeing them as the enemy to an ally.
Right.
Now, that's a story I want to hear.
Yeah, yeah, that evolution of perspective is what makes this deep dive so
Yeah,
fascinating.
sure.
Especially because he starts off with this frozen bird and his bird feeder.
And then jumps into his career in big oil.
Okay, so let's start with that bird feeder.
Okay.
What do you think the author is trying to convey with that image?
Well, I think he's confronting the unintended consequences of his actions.
Okay.
You know, providing food, which seems like a helpful act, could have made the birds dependent,
Right.
leaving them unprepared for winter.
Hmm.
And, you know, it kind of mirrors the dilemmas engineers face.
Yeah,
Can we improve the world without causing unforeseen harm?
that's such a good point. And he doesn't shy away from connecting this to his time in big oil, where he says the EPA was practically painted as the archenemy.
Right.
So what industry practices might have led to that kind of thinking?
Well, back then, big oil was all about production and profit.
Okay.
Environmental regulations were seen as roadblocks,
Hmm.
pure and simple.
Yeah.
They meant added costs and delays, which didn't exactly make the EPA popular.
Right, of course. And he even mentions in his book, An Einganeer's Tale, that environmentalists were considered nut jobs in those days.
Oof. That's
Yeah,
a pretty harsh label.
it is.
So what was happening in the 60s and 70s that led to such a strong divide?
Well, the environmental movement was gaining steam,
Okay.
but there was major pushback.
Mm,
Some industries and individuals felt threatened,
right.
seeing regulations as an attack on economic growth and personal freedom.
Yeah,
And this was a time of huge social upheaval, remember?
of course. Yeah.
Not everyone embraced the idea of government stepping in for the sake of the environment.
Right. So you have this clash of values playing out,
Right.
and then comes the EPA's decision to redefine gasoline.
Yes.
The author calls it a massive upheaval for big oil.
It was.
Why was this such a big deal?
It forced the industry to completely rethink how it operated.
Okay.
It wasn't just tweaking a formula, it was
No.
a fundamental shift.
Wow.
They suddenly had to invest in new technologies,
Right.
explore alternative fuels, and meet stricter emissions standards.
Okay.
All things that likely caught management off guard. They were used to incremental changes, not this kind of sweeping reform.
Yeah, and right when this is happening, a new generation of engineers raised with environmental awareness
Right.
are entering the workforce.
Yeah.
The author describes them as children of the tree hugger generation.
Hmm.
So how do they impact big oil?
Well, they didn't just follow orders.
Yeah.
They wanted solutions that were both environmentally sound and economically viable.
Right.
These younger engineers viewed EPA regulations not as obstacles, but as challenges to innovate.
Interesting.
It must have created some interesting dynamics within those companies.
That's fascinating. So you have the old guard resistant to change
Yeah,
and these young engineers pushing for sustainability.
right.
And the author even claims that these young engineers actually transformed the industry,
He does.
making it both greener and more profitable.
Uh-huh.
How is that even possible?
He attributes it to their drive to find better ways to produce fuel,
Okay.
reduce emissions, and minimize environmental impact. And importantly, these innovations often led to greater efficiency, less waste, and ultimately higher profits.
Hmm.
Think about catalytic converters, for example.
Wow.
They were initially driven by emissions regulations, but ended up making car engines more efficient overall.
So it wasn't just idealism.
No,
It was finding solutions that worked on multiple levels.
right.
That's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. And he suggests they might have also been involved in reformulating gasoline itself.
Hmm.
Removing lead was a huge step, but there's also the ongoing research into biofuels and other alternatives.
And he seems incredibly proud of how American oil companies are now viewed,
Yeah.
even saying they play a role in energy independence.
Right.
Is that a widely shared view, though?
Well, the energy landscape is complex,
Yeah.
and public perception of oil companies is constantly evolving.
Right.
While it's true they've made progress, there are still significant challenges, especially when it comes to climate change and transitioning to cleaner energy sources.
So there's still a lot of work to do.
Absolutely.
Which brings us back to that bird feeder. After reflecting on his career and engineering's environmental impact,
Yeah.
he takes it down saying, let nature take care of its own.
Okay.
What's going on there?
Mm.
Is he giving up?
It's a powerful ending
Yeah.
and open to interpretation.
Okay.
It could be a retreat from responsibility,
Hmm.
but it could also be a recognition that nature is resilient.
Okay.
And sometimes our intervention does more harm than good.
Right.
Remember, he started this whole post by talking about the frozen bird,
Yeah.
the unintended consequence of his well-intentioned act.
Hmm.
Perhaps taking down the feeder is his way of acknowledging that.
So maybe it's about finding a balance between our desire to help
Right?
and respecting nature's ability to manage on its own.
Exactly. He seems to be grappling with the complexities of that relationship.
Yeah.
How to use our knowledge and resources to improve the world without inadvertently causing more harm.
Hmm.
It's a tough one.
It is.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he's come full circle from seeing himself as a protector providing food to realizing that sometimes the best way to protect is to step back. And that circles back to those young engineers he mentioned.
Right.
They weren't afraid to challenge the status quo, pushing for more sustainable practices within big oil.
Yeah.
And he seems to believe they played a crucial role in driving positive change within the industry.
It's definitely a perspective worth considering.
Yeah.
But was it solely their influence, or were there other factors at play as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it can't all be down to one generation, right?
Exactly. It's important to remember we're seeing this through the lens of a single blog post,
Right.
a single perspective. The reality is likely much more nuanced. There were probably multiple forces contributing to this evolution within big oil,
Okay.
including market pressures, technological advancements, and yes, the changing values of a new generation.
It sounds like a convergence of events almost.
Right.
A perfect storm of circumstances aligning to create real change.
Precisely. And it highlights the importance of recognizing those pivotal moments when different perspectives and motivations come together to drive innovation.
So what can we learn from this engineer's experience? What
Yeah.
can we take away from this and apply to our own lives?
Well, one key takeaway is the power of questioning assumptions.
Okay.
This engineer started with a very specific view of the EPA.
Yeah.
Shaped by his industry and upbringing,
Hmm.
he was practically conditioned to see them as the enemy.
Right. It was ingrained in the culture of big oil at the time.
Exactly. But through his interactions with younger colleagues
Hmm.
and witnessing the positive impact of environmental regulations, he started to challenge that belief.
Yeah, he saw firsthand that the EPA wasn't just about roadblocks.
Right.
They could actually be catalysts for innovation and progress.
And ultimately, he came to see the EPA as a partner in creating a more sustainable future.
Wow.
That willingness to reevaluate our own assumptions,
Right.
to be open to new information and perspectives,
Right.
even if they challenge our deeply held beliefs, is crucial in a world that's constantly evolving.
It's about acknowledging that we don't always have all the answers
Right.
and that there's always more to learn.
Exactly. And it requires humility, curiosity, and a willingness to admit when we're wrong.
Yeah.
But the potential rewards are huge.
Hmm.
If we can cultivate this mindset, we can become more adaptable, better problem solvers, and contribute to positive change in our own spheres of influence.
So it's not just about environmental issues.
No,
It's about how we approach any problem or challenge in our lives.
precisely. And I think another important lesson here is the power of intergenerational collaboration.
Hmm.
Each generation brings its own unique strengths and perspectives to the table.
Right.
When we can bridge those generational divides and work together, we can achieve incredible things. Think back to those young engineers who brought their passion for sustainability into big oil.
Yeah, they didn't just accept the way things were.
Right.
They pushed for better solutions.
And in doing so, they helped reshape the industry. It's a reminder that we don't have to be limited by the thinking of the past. We can learn from those who came before us
Right.
and those who will come after us.
It's about recognizing that collective wisdom,
Yeah.
that we can achieve more when we work together than we ever could alone. And this collaboration is especially crucial when tackling complex challenges like climate change and environmental sustainability.
Absolutely. We need all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Diverse perspectives and experiences, if we're going to find solutions that work for everyone, It's not about pitting generations against each other.
Right.
It's about harnessing that collective energy to create a better future, which again brings us back to the author's decision to remove the bird feeder.
That final act is loaded with symbolism, isn't it?
It really is. There's a sense of coming to terms with the limits of our control,
Yeah.
the importance of allowing nature to take its course.
Maybe he's recognizing that sometimes our well-intentioned efforts can have unintended consequences, and that the best way to care for the environment is to step back and let natural processes play out.
It's a profound question he's grappling with,
Yeah.
and one that he leaves us to ponder as well.
Yeah, it really makes you think about all those good intentions gone wrong.
Yeah.
Where we think we're doing the right thing,
Right.
but end up causing more harm than good.
It's a reminder of the importance of critical thinking. We need to constantly evaluate our choices. Think about the potential consequences, both immediate and long-term, and be ready to adjust course if necessary. That's what sets this engineer apart, his willingness to reflect and reevaluate.
Yeah, it's like he's saying we need to be mindful not just of what we hope to achieve, but also how our actions might ripple outward.
Exactly. He started with a simple act, putting up a bird feeder.
Right.
But even that had unforeseen consequences. His story highlights how interconnected we all are, and how even seemingly small decisions can impact the world around us.
It's a call to awareness, to be more conscious of the choices we make to live more sustainably and strive to leave a positive mark on the world.
His journey reflects a lot of the challenges and opportunities we face as a society. We've explored the tension between industry and environmentalism, the influence of generational shifts, and that complex dance between innovation, profit, and responsibility.
But at its core, it's a story about personal accountability. He's asking us to consider our own actions, even the unintended consequences, and how we can each contribute to a more sustainable and equitable future.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the bird feeder, I want to leave you with one final thought. As you go about your day, take a moment to consider the little things you do that might have a ripple effect on the environment.
Like what? Give me an example.
What could be your mode of transportation, the products you buy, or how you deal with waste? It's about asking yourself, how can I be more mindful of my impact, even in those unexpected ways?
So it's all about those everyday choices and remembering that they can add up to make a real difference.
Exactly, because every choice, however small, has the potential to spark change, for better or worse.
It's up to us to decide what kind of impact we want to have on the world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.